There was this look in his eye, a kind of, I don't know, a mischief to him. And then he asked me a question. How do you think the world will end? Today on the Comic Book Report, The Nice House on the Lake, Volume 1. Stick around and check it out. Greetings all, my name is Dominic and today you're tuning in to the Comic Book Report, where we review comic books and graphic novels so you can get an idea of what to read. And today I've got a special one for all of you. That's right, we're reviewing Volume 1 of The Nice House on the Lake from James Tynion IV. Personally, this has been on my to-read pile for some time, and I'm ecstatic to go ahead and provide a review for all of you today. So let's go ahead and get started. First, some quick facts about today's collection. The issues in this volume were written by James Tynion IV and penciled by Alvaro Martinez Bueno. The issues in this volume were published by DC Comics as part of their Black label beginning in 2021. The volume itself collects The Nice House on the Lake issues 1 through 6, and finally this standard-sized trade paperback comes in at 200 pages. At this time, I'd like to issue a general spoiler warning. I will be flipping through the volume's contents and commenting on plot points throughout. You've been advised. Be advised as well, as part of the Black Label imprint of DC Comics, there is a bit more profanity, an instance of self-harm, and some instances of violence within this comic book. Young reader discretion advised. Okay, and here's our first look at that standard-sized trade paperback. It is a beautiful collection that I'm not even sure my filming is doing justice. The cover itself is very glossed, so you might lose out on some of the darkness in the actual print due to glare and lighting. But overall, love the construction of this trade paperback. It's a pretty standard fare, all things considered. I will note as well that this collection is done on matte paper. It is not a glossy print paper stock on the inside. This matte paper has been very common for a lot of the DC books lately, and overall, while I prefer glossy, the matte printing we get on this collection is quite good. And now that we've taken a look at the exteriors of the book, we'll go ahead and transition to the interior content. I really have to say, overall, I love the presentation of this book. The art throughout is just stunning. I think Tynion, as always, is providing a very great, mysterious, moody narrative through line throughout this whole thing, but the art is also an exquisite, exceptional standout throughout the entire volume. At the time of the recording, this Nice House on the Lake series is still an ongoing series at DC Comics. I know it's at least going through issue 12. I'm not clear myself if that's the conclusion of the whole storyline or if it plans to go beyond that, but I know they've solicited a Volume 2 trade paperback that is supposed to come out some point next year in 2023. Right from the jump, I'll say that this is a story, mystery, intrigue-heavy kind of narrative. I'm of the kind, personally, that I've always enjoyed shows like Lost. I love the mystery. I love the intrigue. The answers are wonderful, but just that journey in the mystery and the what the heck is going on is just one of my favorite tropes I see in all fiction, and I think that Tynion really just knows what he's doing with all of that. And frankly, this book was such a delight and a treat. Before we go too much further, let me go ahead and set up this series. So what is The Nice House on the Lake? Effectively, this story, each issue is done in such a way that each issue begins in a kind of burnt down kind of future point in time where these kind of ragged characters, each issue starts with one of them, is kind of discussing to presumably you, the reader, kind of what went wrong or how this all began or what started. And they all tie back to this character, Walter. Each issue, like I said, begins with one of these characters kind of at the end of their ropes in a kind of post-apocalyptic kind of crazy setting. Then we have kind of a title page, The Nice House on the Lake. Almost every time it's that same image of the house on the lake across a 2-page spread. And then we dive into what's like presently happening in the comic book. I really love that. It gives the whole narrative kind of an over quality of a frame narrative, which I love. And you just know right from the beginning pages that something has gone horribly wrong and what is going to happen. As far as the premise goes, like I mentioned earlier, it all follows this character of Walter, who is kind of an enigmatic sort of figure who was basically a young adult who met all these different kind of eclectic people from high school or college or what have you, and he's always been kind of a loving friend, if not a bit weird, but has just been instrumental at periods in their life, sometimes disappearing for years at a time, only to come back. And basically, right before the set of this story, he reaches out via email or phone or what have you to invite a very key group of people to this nice house on the lake, on this beautiful, gorgeous, almost vacation house, to kind of reconnect and spend time together in fellowship and fun. And whether they were really excited to go or reluctantly were badgered into it, the set of people arrive, and we find them kind of arriving at this beautiful, idyllic house. We don't see Walter right away, and it's just a really interesting group of people that have a very nuanced backstory. Some of them are deeply involved in the others' lives, some not at all, and there's a good handful of mixing and matching. The implication is that Walter is the glue that ties this whole group of people together, even if they don't have ties with one another. Along with their itinerary and invitation, each person is given sort of a description as well as a symbol. For example, I don't know if I'd call her a main character, but one of the most main characters is considered the artist, and her symbol is like a little painter color palette. We have other characters too, like the doctor, the scientist, the writer, and each one of them is noted by their own little symbol. And it's kind of intriguing and odd, but you think that it has to do with events or things that Walter wants to happen during the night of this event. Anyway, the night progresses, they have beers poolside, and everyone's kind of enjoying the party when, not many of them have cell reception. That's the other thing. They're in the middle of these kind of wooded lakeland area. And anyway, one person eventually gets some kind of service, and they see on Twitter or online that there's some kind of chaotic world-ending event where people are bursting into flames from above, skin is melting off, they think it's some kind of alien invasion or attack, and things seem to happen slowly and throughout the whole world. And Walter shows up and reveals that there's no escape, and that them and this place are all that's left, or all that's going to be left, that he's an alien, and he's chosen these few to survive, and now they're trapped here. And that's kind of the wrinkle at the very end of the very first issue. You realize he's an alien. He proves it by, his face moves around in alien ways and melts, and anyway, it's just radical. And so the next few issues pick up on the group of people trying to put their pieces of their lives together and figure out what the heck to do now. They realize also weird things about this whole lakeside property, like there's a statue out front that when you touch it, it shows you your home kind of on fire, or dead bodies in the streets, things like that. They find out that there's an invisible kind of force field or barrier around different boundary lines in this whole complex around the lake. They notice that the sky is a stagnant, never-changing image. The stars don't move, things like that. And after a time, they realize that if they make a shopping list of whatever they want, the stuff magically appears or shows up at their doorstep the next morning without explanation. Toward the middle or climax of this volume, they also realize that they can't die. One person basically slits his neck, and he bleeds, and he feels the pain, but he cannot die. These people, they don't know why they're preserved, but they know that Walter, in his alien, twisted way, actually loves them and did this for a reason. There's a lot of intrigue as far as their past and how they know this. We also find out that Walter, in addition to being alien, has been planning this since before he met each of them, and he somehow cares for them, but he also has the ability to take away their memories and do all sorts of other insidious stuff. Toward the end of this volume, we find a hidden character who's been at the lake house since the beginning, who's sort of inadvertently helped Walter engineer this, but now he's saying there's a way to save the planet and save them and take over, before Walter says that there's nothing good at the end of that tunnel and erases all of their memories, starting over again at the lake. And effectively, that's how Volume 1 ends. This is by no means the end of a story, and it's really only a chapter mark, not a small story arc for this collection. It is the first 3 issues of at least 12, and personally, I'm at the edge of my seat. I cannot wait to read the subsequent volume when it comes out. I am absolutely charmed and intrigued, and the overall vibe of this was very, very fun. I think that some people classify this as horror. I would say it's more mystery, post-apocalyptic character drama, and I think that that's an important distinction for some. There's some like myself that really don't love to read a ton of horror anymore, but something like this I find within my bounds or line of what I actually enjoy. And like I said, it comes across much more as a post-apocalyptic mystery character drama than I would say a horror movie. That being said, it is very moody, atmospheric, and has a very sinister, creepy vibe, and that tonally bleeds all the way down into of the artwork and how it's laid out, and just the way the artist captures a lot of the storytelling that Tynion has penned. It's really fantastic, and there's an absolutely incredible synergy between writer and artist for this collection that just works. I don't think that this would have been nearly as successful or as effective without the incredible deft talents of the artist involved. Absolutely adored reading this book. I was at the edge of my seat, and it's a win for me for sure. I would say maybe one drawback I have about this collection, and that's in a overwhelmingly positive collection. My one drawback is that there's a very healthy cast of characters. I would say at least 12. And so some of them I don't feel like are explored. Granted, we only have the first 6 issues, but there were times I was a little confused as to who is who, or feeling like I'm not even sure who this person is at this point. Maybe that'll be a little bit clearer upon reread, but you are really tossed into this whole group of people, and while I do think they layer it and explore it, there is a little bit of confusion just with a cast this large. But like I said, very fun character dynamics, and I think that it's just a really interesting approach to the post-apocalyptic genre, and even though there were some tropes I noticed in here, I think that they were spun in very creative ways. At the back of the book, we get the cover art gallery, some variant covers, and just some sketches and behind-the-scenes work. A very nice little collection here, like I said, standard size, matte printing paper. Nothing too crazy, but I think that this was absolutely a hit for me, and I think that if you're on the fence after seeing this, hopefully you can consider whether you'd like to check this out for yourselves. If you've been reading Nice House on the Lake, definitely let me know in the comments below what you've been thinking. So far, based on this book, I am hooked, and I cannot wait to read the end. Here's a quick look at our cast of characters with their respective symbols as mentioned earlier, and after that we'll go ahead and take one more look at the exteriors of the book, and then all that's left is to give this collection a grade. For this effectively moody and atmospheric post-apocalyptic character drama mystery, the Comic Book Report is happy to give The Nice House on the Lake Volume 1 a B+. This is definitely a standout read for me as we approach the end of the year here. I was thoroughly fascinated and happy throughout my entire read through. The only thing keeping this from an A for me is just juggling all that cast of characters, being a little confused here and there, and then also just wanting to make sure this sticks the landing. This is an incomplete story, but I cannot wait to see how it reaches its resolution. If you've read The Nice House on the Lake, let me know about it in the comments below. And thank you so much for stopping by. Don't forget to give a like and a comment, and until next time, this has been the Comic Book Report. Thank you so much for watching. Don't forget to check out some of my other videos, and until next time, have a good one.